It's like these people don't learn, whether it be one Michelle Obama, whether it be one Meghan Markle, whether it be Disney as an entire corporation. Disney is expecting a bomb when it comes to Snow White. So it's coming out like in a matter of days. They've gone around and they've canceled all the premieres. I mean, the premiere in London was canceled. And then they had to cancel the premiere right here in the good old US of A. Well, they didn't fully cancel it. They scaled it back, I should say. It's now just a little afternoon show. And they're not allowing the media to come in and ask the questions as they normally would. So their idea is we're going to save our talent from having to deal with some of these questions that might make them uncomfortable. So they're canceling the full-scale premiere in LA that they had been anticipating. Variety was one of the first to report on this. Actually, yours truly was one of the first to report on at least the London premiere getting altogether scrapped. They moved it to Spain. Let's see if we can see this. Here's little Rachel Zegler from New Jersey singing in a castle in Spain. This is apparently the castle that inspired the original film made back in 1937. Here we are.
I'm waiting on a wish beneath 1,000 treetops, and as the silver sky stops, I long to leave the walls behind me. Waiting on a wish, holding out for someday, hoping somehow, some way, there comes a miracle to find me. I close my eyes and see the girl I'm meant to be. Is she a part of me I've had to hide? Wondering, will she, or will I spend another year waiting on a wish? I'm waiting on a wish beneath 1,000 treetops.
Oh, don't you just love that, right? Anyway, Rachel Zegler, who doesn't have a terrible voice, and you know how particular I am on singing. Maybe that was live, so we got to cut her a little bit of slack. I saw her in West Side Story. She did a lovely little job as Maria, but she really still kind of feels like Rachel Zegler from New Jersey. The little teeny tiny little, I mean, gosh, she could have gotten a job as one of the dwarfs, right? You should have seen her next to Gal Gadot on stage at the Oscars. I'm sure Rachel didn't appreciate having to stand next to her. For a variety of reasons, those two really don't seem to gel. Not to mention, like, the whole premise of the movie seems just a tad flawed, only because you're looking at Gal Gadot saying, there's no way that mirror could say that she's not the fairest of them all, really and truly. Hey, RN Explorer, thank you so much for your generosity. Michelle Obama and Meghan Markle remind us of the important thing about becoming a podcaster. Some should be a podcaster and some should be just listeners. Michelle and Meghan should be the latter. They should be the listeners, right? RN Explorer, you're not going to get any disagreement from me here. And I'm sort of surprised, only because Meghan used to be an actress, so you'd think that she would be like a little bit more skilled, except I think, and this is my hunch about all of these actors and actresses, they're good at reading scripts, but when it comes to authenticity, often they don't really know who they are themselves. And so it becomes far more challenging for them to be real. And in this medium, I firmly believe to be successful, you just got to be real. You just got to let it all hang out. You just got to, like, there's no scripts. There's no extra bells and whistles. There's no set, much like the castle we just saw there in Spain that Rachel was singing on. It's just very authentic. Christopher Rintel in Australia. Good morning. Good morning. It's afternoon where I am, but thank you very, very much for the generosity. So this article came out the other day, and the Hollywood Reporter, for them to actually turn on Rachel Zegler and Disney, that's kind of a big deal, because the Hollywood Reporter is like, they're like MSNBC, right? To the entertainment industry. It's like MSNBC is to the Democrat Party as Hollywood Reporter is to Disney and the entertainment industry. It's like access journalism. And they know that if they want to get these people back, they better do a nice little profile. But they came out and admitted that this has just been a train wreck. And at this point, like, the company executives just want to get over it. They just want to get through this premiere and they want to get over it. And they don't think that this thing is going to do very well. They don't think it's going to do as well as Cinderella. I think Cinderella, don't quote me because I'm just getting this off the top of my head, I think it made like $67 million in its box office opening weekend. They don't think it's going to do that. And now, don't forget, we got to adjust for inflation, right? You got to adjust for inflation. So in today's dollars, I don't know what those numbers are, but it would be far greater that they'd have to make. So they've changed sort of the whole theme of this around. Instead of having the big shindigs, instead of having huge advanced ticket sales, they're not doing any of that. They've actually limited the premieres. You saw the one in London got canceled. They went for the castle in Spain where they had Rachel singing outside. And then they have the one in LA getting totally downsized. And so they're not going to have the big red carpet thing with all the reporters because, quote from Variety magazine, coverage will be limited to photographers and a house crew. A house crew meaning they know exactly what everybody is going to ask. The Hollywood Reporter reporting that all of the questions are effectively going to be screened. So Rachel gets to act some more. She won't actually have to answer any questions on the fly because, well, we know she can't, not without getting in a lot of trouble like she did here.
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
So no Prince or a different kind of Prince?
We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie. Right. Andrew Burnap, great dude. Yep. It's one of those things that I think everyone's going to have their assumptions about what it's actually going to be, but it's really not about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
So that didn't go over so well, right? Initially. I mean, there's been a whole series of things, but I think that really kicked it off. Well, perhaps the one thing that really, and this isn't entirely fair, that kicked it off was there were a lot of people that were like, wait a second, she's from Colombia. Like, why is she playing Snow White? I actually find that neither here nor there because, I mean, whatever, you know, I mean, that's a treacherous path, right, for us to go down. What I would say is, number uno, she's not very pretty, right? Gal Gadot has it all over her all day long. In fact, that's something that's come up on the internet. Like, how does this make sense? The casting on this show is really kind of outlandish and fairy tale like because there is one that seems to be the fairest of them all, and then there's one that actually could do a great job at the little evil stepmother queen, right? I mean, so you have that going on, and then you have on top of that just commentary like you just heard. So when you're knocking the actual script and premise and theater behind it all, that's not going to sit well with the people that like the Snow White story, which happen to be a lot of little girls and a lot of women all over the world. And then when you're like dumping on love, of course, because you have to. I mean, hey, Michelle Obama's dumping all over her husband. She must think that sells. I got news for them. It doesn't. Okay, like it doesn't sell. Whether you're Michelle Obama knocking Barry all day long, or whether you're Rachel saying, you know, the prince doesn't matter because none of that matters in life. I'm just going to like set the record straight. Yeah, it's sort of like everything in life. Like we are here as a species because people hopefully meet someone and fall in love and find a thing to existence. And that's sort of what it should be about. But I realize, you know, Rachel Zegler wants to make it about something else entirely. In fact, she told Variety at one of their events a couple of years ago, she said, quote, she's not going to be saved, meaning Snow White's not going to be saved by the prince. She's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be, right? Because she's like Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris never had kids. Kamala Harris married a divorced guy who had to divorce his wife because he took up, allegedly, with the nanny. Lovely. Just what we all should be aspiring to be one day. Okay, you know what, Rachel? I'm sorry. Again, in light of the change in political climate, this DEI stuff, this constant nauseating women's lib stuff, like it just doesn't work anymore. It doesn't. Like human beings are wired a certain way, and they're not going to go to your show and they're not going to watch your movie. And so consequently, your major company, your major entertainment company, one Disney, has had to cancel its premieres. So think of the stress that they feel right now. 4 years in the making, Snow White. The director's like, oh my God, I mean, every which way they turn, they're just getting blasted because Rachel Zegler says these little things, or one Gal Gadot says these little things. And by the way, I love Gal, but you see, it's become very politicized. She has a view, which I actually adhere to and appreciate, and she's a former member of, by the way, IDF, and she obviously stands with her country, and I admire her tremendously for doing that, but she's come under attack for that. And then Rachel has to say free Palestine when she tweets out the little trailer to Snow White. So they've turned this movie, Rachel has, I should say, Rachel, not Gal. Rachel has turned this movie into a political hot rod, and it's not good for Disney. And now you get other actors on the set that are really bummed out because guess what? They can't go to the premiere. They're not going to get to the walk the red carpet. One of the guys who was voicing one of the dwarfs said, and this is Mark Klebb, I believe, that he was pretty bummed, but, quote, I understand it. You know, look, you got to be really careful in today's world. So I see why they did it. Careful in today's world. Why? Because you got Rachel Zegler who's willing to just throw these lightning rods out there because she's got a very particular viewpoint. Don't forget, this is the same girl who said that she hoped Trump never knew peace and that any supporters of Donald Trump never knew peace. You really think Trump supporters are going to go and see her movie? I think the short answer to that, you're welcome to answer it in the chat, is no, right? They're not going to go to the movie. They're not going to patronize with their dollars Disney and a woke Snow White. And then you get all these people saying something else, which is actually pretty relevant too. And that's that, you know, the whole thing is so darn overproduced with all of these computer-generated images. That's what Snow White has become, this computer. And they wouldn't even use real little people to play the dwarfs in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And they wouldn't use the little people because they were afraid of offending people politically. It's like they are so caught up within themselves. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. And so the casting has been a mess. It doesn't make any sense from the get-go. And I'm predicting that this movie is going to be a huge problem, which is too bad, right? Because it is kind of a nice story and it could have been great, but they just got off to a very, very bad start. I want to get to Tom Homan because we get some hard news. If we started on the light stuff today, we're going to get to the hard stuff as we move forward in the show. But before we do, I'm getting better every day, and I thank Balance of Nature. Some of you who watch the program daily, you know that I had a little bit of a cold, which I said was a miracle that it's the first one I've gotten this year because I usually have like 5, and the kids have had like 5 or 7, and we've had all the germs coming into our house. But I've been feeling great, and I credit Balance of Nature with this. I get all my fruits and veggies daily with Balance of Nature. I take the fruits and gummies every single day. They send it to my house. You can get these actually at 35% off and free shipping if you go to balanceofnature.com and you type in my code word Trish, T-R-I-S-H. 35% off, free shipping, money back guarantee. So win-win-win. There's tons of testimonials on there. So go check them out. You don't have to just take my word. You could take Leslie's because she's in the chat and she actually takes this stuff too. I know she's said it to me before. Or my kid's music teacher, because he came up to me and he's like, Trish, I listen to your podcast every day and I just want you to know that I take Balance of Nature too. And I'm like, wait, you listen to my podcast every day? It's funny. You get a few conservatives that you sometimes don't think are conservatives out there. What do you know? Anyway, Balance of Nature, it's really good stuff. And they help me to bring this show to you for free every day. So we love them for that reason as well.